pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Shawn The Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another very quick book review. In the last 2 days I have read a suspense novel. I don't read suspense novels. I don't read genre fiction. This was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. So here's the backstory. Together with Ange of Beyond the Pages, I am reading a book by Christopher Fowler called oh my god, what's it called? Forgotten Authors. And it's a collection of bite-sized essays about writers that were once very popular that have fallen out of favor. Nobody reads them. Their books have gone out of print. And he's just collected some of his impressions about why we should continue to read these authors. One of them, one of the early chapters, one of the early bite-sized essays, was about Charlotte Armstrong, who wrote female-centered, almost proto-feminist suspense novels in the 1950s, many of which were made into movies. And the one that he talked about at length was Charlotte Armstrong's 1951 novel, Mischief. And the way he described it, Ange and I both said, that sounds really interesting. And again, consider the source. You have often heard me say on my channel, I hate genre fiction. I hate the conventions of mystery novels and all that stuff. But I said, I kind of want to try it. So I tried it, and I loved it. This is a story about a husband and wife that lives, I don't know where they live, but they don't live in the big city. And they come into New York City for one night because the husband, who's the president of some company or other, not a nationally known company, but maybe regionally quite successful company, comes into New York and has to give a speech. His sister lives in New York. She was supposed to babysit their 9-year-old daughter Bunny while they go to this thing, but the sister backs out at the last minute. So they're left kind of scrambling. Approach one of the people on staff at the hotel. It's actually the lift man, the guy who runs the elevator. His name is Eddie. And he volunteers his teenaged niece, who lives with him and his wife, to come and do the babysitting. That's the premise, and it quickly gets dark. So I'm going to read you a couple passages. They're very short, but just because what I really enjoyed I enjoyed the suspense, but why I enjoyed it was so well written. I thought the prose was really shapely. Even before the elevator man shows up with his niece, Nell, the mother, Ruth, starts to have premonitions that this is not a good idea. There's 2 hotel rooms with an adjoining door between them. The parents have the one room and their 9-year-old daughter is in the other room, and there's a door between. All of a sudden, she saw their 2 connecting rooms, the 2 bright boxes on the inner rim of the donut of this 8th floor, suspended above the boiling city. And the rising noise surrounded them like smoke. The honks, clangs, shouts, and murmurs, the sound and fury, and her heart was squeezed again. And she thought, we couldn't have left her 2,000 miles away. But we shouldn't have brought her. But we couldn't have left her. So just showing the mother's qualms and her doubt about whether it's really a good idea to trust their daughter with a babysitter, this young woman they don't know. But I love that image of the boiling city. There's a lot of really great imagery about the city of New York. And the elevator man, Eddie, shows up with his niece. The niece is rather strange. The mother, Ruth, is kind of talking to herself, saying, is she okay? I guess she's okay, but I have this weird feeling. And they leave her in the room with their daughter, reading a bedtime story, and they start to leave. And this is how Ruth is described at that time. Not all of Ruth went through the door to the corridor. Part remained and tasted the flat, the dim, the silent place from which she had gone. After all the lights and the love and the laughter, how was it for Bunny? Hadn't all the fun too abruptly departed? A part of Ruth lay, in advance of time, in the strange dark. Heard the strange city snarling below. Knew only a stranger's hired meekness was near, when something in the night should cry. Peter put his finger on her velvet shoulder. An elevator was coming. Not Eddie's, and Ruth was glad. Not again did she wish to hear, "Have a good time, you folks, have a good time." She shook at her thoughts. She knew what Peter wanted. By her will, she pulled herself together. Bunny was 9. Bunny would sleep. She drew the tardy part of herself in toward her body until she was all there, standing by the elevators, dressed to the eyes. She looked up at Peter and showed him she was whole. It was the night. At last, it was. So I'm not going to say anything more about what happens, but you're going to be on the edge of your seat. It's 150 pages. You can read it in one sitting. I read it in two. What really worked for me was the writing. I think the writing is really quite lovely, and the characters are deep enough that I actually cared beyond just the plot, and that's my beef with most genre fiction. It's just plot, and the characters are paper thin. I thought the characters were really well drawn. So one little more tease later on in the dramatic part, but I'm not going to give you any context, so that it's not a spoiler at all. Here's the quote. "There wasn't any little girl on the bed. He looked at the windows, and Towers was sick, and sickness was going through him like cream swirling down through a cup of coffee. And something thumped on the floor." Oh my God! This was made into a movie, I think the following year, 1952, starring Marilyn Monroe, called Don't Bother to Knock. I've never seen that movie. I might be interested in it. But what I'm here to heartily recommend to you, this is available pretty much dirt cheap as an ebook and free if you have a Scrib membership, is the novel Mischief, 1951, by Charlotte Armstrong. Please enjoy. Thanks for watching.